Baddie Barbie Trap, based on a true story. By Venny Hay. Part 1. Lights never tell the truth. Las Vegas always smiled first. The lights blinked like they knew you, like they'd been waiting. Neon wrapped itself around the night, promising money, pleasure, and second chances that never really existed. The city didn't sleep, it watched. Trina loved that about Vegas. She stood at the edge of her balcony, silk robe loose around her shoulders, staring down at the strip like it was a mirror. From up here, everything looked clean, quiet, controlled. No one could see the mess underneath, not the broken dreams, not the men who lost themselves chasing fantasy, not the women who learned how to survive by becoming one. Trina had mastered that art. A few years back, she was a playboy, bunny lace, heels, perfect smiles, champagne nights and velvet ropes. Men didn't ask questions, they only looked. And she knew how to make them look twice. That job taught her everything school never did. How men talked when they thought you weren't listening. How power shifted with a laugh. How loneliness wore expensive watches. Being a bunny wasn't just about beauty. It was about observation. She learned who wanted attention, who wanted control, and who wanted to be saved. Rich men came in different flavors, but they all shared one thing: they underestimated her. They saw curves before brains, softness before strategy. Trina never corrected them. Why ruin a good advantage? Vegas had changed her, but it hadn't hardened her, at least not yet. Back then, she still believed in lines she wouldn't cross. She told herself she was just enjoying life, just dating well, just being smart with her looks in a city built on illusion. But illusion has a price. Every dinner came with expectations. Every gift came with strings. Every generous man eventually reminded her that nothing was free. That's when Trina started paying closer attention, not just to what men gave her, but to what they were hiding. Money talks in Vegas. Secrets scream. And Trina? She was learning how to listen. By the time she stepped back inside her penthouse, the city lights flickered behind her like a warning she didn't yet understand. This wasn't the beginning of her story. Not really. It was just the moment before she realized the trap works both ways. Baddie Barbie Trap! Part 2. Luke. Trina met Luke on a quiet night. That alone should have told her something was different. No loud entourage, no flashy entrance. Just a man in his early 60s, white hair neatly cut, expensive suit that didn't need a logo to announce its worth. He sat at the bar like he owned time itself, patient, unbothered, watching the room instead of trying to control it. Old money always moved like that. Luke came from money. The kind that didn't brag, didn't post, didn't flex. It was inherited, protected, and passed down through names that opened doors without knocking. He didn't wear a wedding ring. No kids. No family story slipped into conversation. When Trina asked casually, he smiled and said, "Just me these days." Something about that stuck with her. Most men his age talk too much about their XOVs, their regrets, their glory days. Luke didn't. He asked questions instead. About her childhood. About how she ended up in Vegas. About what she wanted, not what she was. That was new. Trina had learned how to read men fast. Luke wasn't desperate, wasn't loud, wasn't sloppy. He was careful, thoughtful, and lonely in a way money couldn't fix. The kind of loneliness that settles in when there's no one left to check on you or check you. They started slow. Coffee first, then dinner. Then nights where he listened while she talked, really listened, like her words mattered more than her body. He spoiled her without asking for anything back, and that made her uneasy. Nothing comes free in Vegas. Luke had houses she never saw and accounts she never asked about. He never mentioned numbers, but she noticed the way servers straightened up when he walked in, the way people made room without being told. Power didn't announce itself, Fit whispered. Trina told herself it was harmless. An older man enjoying her company? A woman enjoying security? Still, every time Luke smiled at her like she was the only thing left in his world, something cold brushed her spine. Men with nothing to lose were the most dangerous kind. And Luke? Luke had everything except someone to leave it to. As they walked through the casino one night, his hand resting lightly on her back, Trina caught their reflection in the glass. A beautiful woman, a rich old man, a story Vegas had seen 1,000 times before. But this one felt different. She just didn't know yet how different. Baddie Barbie Trap. Based on a true story. Part 3. Fine print. Trina didn't rush anything. That was her gift, patience wrapped in silk. Luke was predictable once you paid attention. Mornings started early, always black coffee, no sugar. He checked the markets before the sun was fully up, read the same financial briefings, took the same quiet walks through the same parts of the city tourists never noticed. By noon, he was done with the world. Afternoons belonged to her. Patterns told stories. And Luke's story was clean. He paid everything on time. No debts. No chaos. His accounts were layered trusts, investments, long-term holdings that stretched back decades. Old money didn't sit in one place. It hid in smart places. Trina never asked directly. She didn't have to. Luke liked explaining things to her. It made him feel useful, needed. She listened. Always listening. The more time they spent together, the more Luke leaned into her presence, like it was keeping him upright. He talked about the past in fragments, friends who'd died, business partners who drifted away, a family name that slowly thinned out until it was just him carrying it. "No one really knows me anymore," he said one night, staring at the city from his window. Trina didn't respond right away. She just reached for his hand. That's when it shifted. Luke started mentioning the future casual at first. What would happen to his estate? How messy things could get without proper planning. He joked about lawyers fighting over scraps if he didn't stay organized. Trina kept her face neutral, calm, interested, but not eager. When he suggested adding her as a beneficiary, it sounded almost logical. Like paperwork. Like trust. Like something that simply made sense. "You're the only one who's been here," he told her. "I want to make sure you're taken care of." She didn't push, didn't celebrate. She even hesitated, just enough. That hesitation sealed it. The paperwork came later. Quiet meetings. Quiet signatures. Luke explained everything line by line, proud of how thorough he was. Trina asked smart questions, nodded when appropriate, signed where he pointed. Just like that, her name sat beside his, etched into the future. That night, alone in her bathroom, Trina stared at her reflection longer than usual. Same face, same body. But something had changed. She wasn't just a woman in Luke's life anymore. She was written into it. Vegas lights blinked outside the window, indifferent as ever. Trina turned off the mirror light and walked back into the bedroom where Luke slept peacefully, unaware of how permanent things had just become. She slid in beside him, calm as water. This wasn't a mistake, she told herself. It was preparation. Baddie Barbie Trap. Based on a true story. Part 4. Open Water. The idea came to her quietly. That's how the most dangerous ones always do. Luke loved the water. Said it reminded him that money couldn't buy everything, not time, not control over nature. Trina remembered that when she suggested the yacht, just a weekend escape, fresh air, privacy, no Vegas noise, no eyes. He smiled like a man being given a gift. The boat cut through the water smooth and clean, white against endless blue. Luke looked relaxed, out there lighter somehow. No phone, no schedule. Just the hum of the engine and Trina beside him, sun on her skin, wind in her hair. She played her role perfectly. Laughter, a soft touch on his arm. Stories about the future she never meant to share. Luke watched her like he was trying to memorize her face, like he already sensed something slipping away but didn't know what to call it. Out on the open water, the world felt smaller, simpler. No witnesses, no past, just now. When the moment came, it didn't feel dramatic. It felt final. 1 second Luke was talking about nothing important, about how calm he felt in the next. There was silence where his voice should have been. The water closed in on itself, smooth as glass, leaving no trace of what had just changed. Trina stood there, gripping the rail, heart steady in a way that surprised her. No screaming. No panic. Just the sound of water and the echo of a decision already made. She waited, counted breaths, let the sun warm her face. Somewhere deep inside, a line she once promised never to cross disappeared completely. By the time she turned the boat back toward shore, Trina wasn't the woman Luke had met anymore. She was the only one left who knew how the story really ended. And Vegas. Vegas was still waiting. Baddie Barbie Trap. Part 5. A clean story. People wanted something simple. A tragic accident. An older man. Open water. Trina gave them exactly that. Her voice stayed soft when she told it how Luke lost his footing, how fast everything happened, how she screamed for help that came too late. She cried just enough, shook just enough. Grief, when performed gently, made people uncomfortable. They didn't press. They didn't linger. They believed her. Authorities filed reports. Friends few as Luke had nodded solemnly. Accidents happened every day, especially to men his age. Especially near water. Especially when no one was really watching. The story closed itself. Money moved quietly after that. Accounts unlocked. Paperwork finalized. Trina never rushed it. She let time do the heavy lifting. Grief looked good on her, made her seem fragile, human, undeserving of suspicion. Vegas wrapped her back into its arms. At night, alone in her penthouse, Trina felt something new settle into her chest. Not guilt, not relief, clarity. The world hadn't cracked open like she'd imagined. It hadn't punished her. It had rewarded her. That was the lesson. Men came and went at bars, at charity events, at private lounges where wealth sat heavy in the air. Trina watched them now with sharper eyes. She noticed the ones who talked about legacy, the ones who drank alone, the ones who laughed too loud to hide the silence waiting at home. She didn't rush toward anyone. Predators never do. She updated her look. Softer, more refined. Less Vegas, more mystery. She listened more than she spoke. Let men tell her who they were, what they feared, what they owned. Somewhere deep down, she knew this wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. Luke hadn't been the end of something. He'd been proof of concept, a test run, a door opening that couldn't be closed once you'd stepped through it. Trina raised her glass to the city lights one night, watching her reflection blur against the window. Vegas didn't judge. Vegas didn't ask questions. And somewhere out there, someone new was already watching her, thinking he was the lucky one. Baddie Barbie Trap. Part 6. William. William was nothing like Luke. That's why Trina noticed him. Where Luke had been quiet and contained, William filled space. Mid-50s, sharp jaw, salt and pepper beard. The kind of man who liked tailored jackets and letting people know he earned his way in, not inherited it. New money confidence. Loud enough to be seen, smart enough to be respected. He spotted Trina first. Men like William always did. She had perfected the look elegant but unattached, soft but unreadable. When he approached, his smile came easy, practiced. He spoke like a man used to winning conversations. "I don't usually do Vegas," he said. "But it grows on you." Trina smiled back. "So do habits." William laughed, thinking it was flirting. He didn't realize it was observation. He told her his story without being asked. Self-made real estate, tech investments, no wife too busy, no kids never the right time. He talked about risk like it was a badge of honor, about success like it proved something unfinished inside him. Trina let him talk. William liked control. She saw it in how he ordered, how he corrected servers gently but firmly, how his hand lingered just a second too long when he thought she wasn't paying attention. Men like him didn't want companionship, they wanted admiration with a pulse. Easy enough. Their dates escalated fast. Helicopter rides, private tables, last-minute trips. William liked to impress, liked to be needed, liked the way Trina listened, like his words mattered more than the money behind them. What he didn't know was that Trina was already mapping him. His schedule, his habits, the way he avoided doctors, the way he trusted paperwork to assistants without reading closely, the way he talked about legacy but never about protection. Different man, same mistake. One night, as William slept beside her, Trina stared at the ceiling, calm as ever. She didn't feel rushed. She didn't feel reckless. She felt prepared. Luke had taught her what was possible. William was about to teach her how easy it could be again. Vegas lights blinked through the curtains, steady and The trap was already set. Baddie Barbie Trap? Part 7. Into the Quiet. By the time William signed the paperwork, it felt familiar. Too familiar. Trina had worked her way in gently, never rushing, never demanding. She framed everything as security, as trust, as preparation for a future he liked imagining, but never quite planned for. William wanted to feel chosen, important, permanent. She gave him that feeling. The documents came and went like a formality. Another signature. Another quiet promise. Another man convinced he was different from the rest. Trina folded the reality away neatly, just like before. The plan was set. This time, she suggested something slower, calmer, a break from Vegas. No lights, no crowds, no noise. Just trees, firelight, and space to breathe. William loved the idea. He liked telling people he could survive without luxury even if he rarely did. Camping, he called it an adventure. Trina called it quiet. The drive out was long and empty. Roads thinning. Cell service fading. William talked the whole way about deals, about risks he'd taken, about how alive he felt lately. Trina nodded, smiled, reached for his hand at the right moments. Out there, surrounded by trees and silence, everything felt smaller. No witnesses, no expectations. Just the crackle of fire and the illusion of peace. William relaxed. That was the problem. As night settled in, Trina watched the flames dance, her face calm, her mind steady. She didn't feel nervous. She didn't feel excited. She felt resolved. This wasn't impulse, it was followed through. The city had taught her how easy it was for stories to disappear. Nature, she realized, did the same thing, just quieter. Later, when the forest swallowed the sounds and the darkness pressed close, Trina understood something clearly for the first time. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about money anymore. It was about control over endings. And William, laughing earlier by the fire, never saw his coming. Baddie Barbie Trap. Part 8. What People Accept. Trina didn't rush back to the city. That mattered. When she did return, she looked exhausted, dust on her shoes, eyes rimmed red, voice thin like it had been scraped raw by worry. She told the story the same way every time, never changing the order, never adding unnecessary details. They had gone camping to reconnect. William wanted fresh air. He needed space. She said he wandered off alone, said he liked walking at night, said she told him not to go too far. Her voice cracked when she explained waking up and realizing he hadn't come back. Panic, searching, yelling his name, into trees that didn't answer. People filled in the rest themselves. That was the trick. Authorities asked questions, but nature made things easy. Trails disappeared. Weather shifted. Time passed. Men went missing in places like that more often than anyone liked to admit. Accidents didn't need villains, just distance and bad luck. Trina cried at the right moments. Paused when it made sense. Never over-explained. William's friends shook their heads, muttering about how he always thought he was invincible. His business partners talked about stress, about how hard he'd been pushing himself lately. Everyone found a reason that didn't include her. They always do. The paperwork surfaced quietly afterward. No drama, no fights. Just signatures already in place, decisions already made. Lawyers nodded. Clerks processed forms. Money shifted hands like it was following a plan written long before anyone noticed. Grief made Trina invisible. People didn't look too closely at a woman they felt sorry for. They brought her food, told her to rest, said she was strong, said she'd been good for him. That was the part that stayed with her. Good for him. At night, alone again, Trina sat by the window, Vegas lights humming below. 2 stories told. 2 stories believed. No alarms. No ghosts loud enough to haunt her sleep. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Somewhere deep down, she understood the most dangerous truth of all. The world didn't need much convincing. And as long as that stayed true, the trap would keep working. Baddie Barbie Trap. Part 9. The One Who Remembered. 4 years passed like nothing happened. That's what scared her most. By then, Trina's life looked polished, too polished. New properties, new accounts, new men who came and went quietly, each leaving something behind. 3 more, just like the others. Different faces, different stories, same ending written neatly into paperwork in silence. Vegas still smiled at her. People whispered about her, but softly. She was lucky, they said. Men with money just seemed drawn to her. Tragedy followed. Sure, but tragedy followed a lot of beautiful women. No one said her name out loud in the same sentence as suspicion. Until one person did. He showed up on a Tuesday. Not dramatic, not loud. Just a man standing too close when she turned around at a charity event, holding a drink he hadn't touched. Mid-40s plain suit. Eyes that didn't soften when they met hers. Trina he said. Not a question. She smiled automatically. Yes. I knew Luke. The name hit harder than she expected. He introduced himself, calmly, someone from Luke's past. Not family, not a friend she'd heard about. Someone who handled things. Quiet things. The kind of person Luke trusted because he didn't talk much. You said he didn't have anyone, the man continued. That wasn't true. Trina kept her posture relaxed, her expression sympathetic. She'd done this before. People came around, sometimes curious, grieving, late to the story. But this one didn't sound curious. I've read the reports, he said. I've heard your version. Your version. I don't believe it. The words landed clean. No anger. No accusation. Just certainty. For the first time in years, Trina felt something tighten in her chest. Not fear exactly. Awareness. The kind that comes when you realize the room has changed and you didn't notice when. Luke didn't trust easily, the man continued. And he planned for everything. Except you. Trina held his gaze, measuring him the way she once measured everyone else. He wasn't asking questions. He was stating facts. That was new. You're wrong, she said gently. He nodded once, like he expected that. Maybe, he replied, but I'm still here. And just like that, the past stopped staying buried. That night, Trina couldn't sleep. 4 years, 5 men. Perfect stories. And still one loose thread. Vegas lights blinked outside her window, same as always. But for the first time, they didn't feel like protection. They felt like exposure. Baddie Barbie Trap. Part 10. The Last Move. Trina decided he couldn't be left unfinished. That was her mistake. She told herself it was no different than before, just another loose end, another man who knew too much. He watched her too closely, asked the wrong questions, appeared in places he shouldn't have known about. The past wasn't supposed to reach this far forward. So she planned carefully, quietly, patient the way she'd always been. She chose the setting, the timing, the story she'd tell afterward. In her mind, it was already done. Another disappearance folded into the city's endless appetite for tragedy. He agreed to meet her without hesitation. That should have been the warning. The night air felt heavy as she arrived, heels clicking softly, heart steady. She wore calm like armor. Whatever he thought he knew, she would end it the same way she always had, clean, believable, final. But when she stepped inside, something felt off. Too quiet. Too still. Then the lights came up. Not brake controlled, measured. Voices followed. Not shouting, not rushing. Authority didn't need volume. It filled the room on its own. Trina Haynes, a man said, calm and unmistakable. Don't move. Her breath caught not in panic, but disbelief. The man from Luke's past stepped forward, eyes unreadable. No accusation in his face, no anger, just the weight of truth she hadn't bothered to imagine. Federal, he said simply. Luke wasn't as alone as you thought. Everything unraveled at once. Years collapsed into seconds. The stories, the paperwork, the accidents people accepted because it was easier than asking questions. Patterns she thought were invisible, laid out clean and undeniable. She finally understood. Luke hadn't been the end of something. He'd been the beginning of her trail. As they read her rights, Trina looked around the room, searching for control and finding none. Vegas had always protected her, but only while she believed she was smarter than everyone else. The trap had worked, just not the way she thought. As she was led away, Cameras flashing, whispers already forming. Trina lifted her chin. No tears, no confession. Just the quiet realization that the game ends the same way it starts, with someone underestimating the wrong person. This time, it was her. Epilogue. The file never lies. Federal agent's POV. I watched her from the back of the courtroom. Trina Haynes sat perfectly still, hands folded, posture flawless like she was attending a gala instead of her own sentencing. No tears, no shaking. Just that same calm she wore the first night I met her, when she thought I was just another man from the past she could erase. She never knew how close she came to getting away with it all. If Luke hadn't trusted me with his personal files, if one signature hadn't felt out of place, if patterns didn't exist, no matter how careful you think you are, she would have disappeared back into the lights. 4 men officially tied to her. 3 more suspected. Years of financial trails, insurance payouts, beneficiary changes, conveniently timed accidents, nature, water, isolation, stories people wanted to believe because the truth was darker. Trina didn't make mistakes. She made assumptions. She assumed loneliness meant no one would notice. She assumed beauty meant invisibility. She assumed money erased consequence. She never once assumed someone would wait. I did. When the judge read the sentence, the room finally shifted. Even Trina's composure cracked not outwardly, but just enough. A breath held too long. A blink that came late. Life in federal prison. No parole, plus 3 consecutive life sentences tied to financial fraud, conspiracy, and multiple counts of first-degree murder. The math didn't matter. She wasn't walking out. As they led her away, she glanced back once, not at the crowd, not at the cameras, but straight at me. For a moment, I saw it clearly. Not regret. Not fear. Recognition. She finally knew who she'd been dealing with. I closed Luke's file that night and slid it into storage. Another story finished. Another name archived. Vegas would keep glowing. Someone else would chase the illusion. But Trina Haynes, the woman they called Baddie Barbie, would spend the rest of her life in a place with no mirrors, no admirers, and no exits. The trap always closes. Eventually.